Welcome to the I Saved You, Now Do the Dishes podcast. I'm author and speaker Carrie Severson. In each episode, I'll share stories and tips from my experience with caregiving and advocacy through my husband's cancer journey. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome back to I Saved You, Now Do the Dishes podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Severson. Thanks for being here. In last week's episode, I shared how my husband and I met. We're a Bumble couple and talked about how our union was sort of clunky. We are a couple that got married during COVID early on, had a Zoom wedding, had to have a reception a year and a half later, found our home in 2023, years after we were married. And 6 weeks later, my husband was abruptly awoken with this lump on his neck. A month after that, he was diagnosed with cancer. So I left you in the first episode with him getting a biopsy and me being in a different state leading healthcare professionals through a half-day seminar on burnout recovery. So I get home. He and I decided that we wanted to host our first Thanksgiving in this beautiful house. And I had never actually touched a turkey before. And here in 3 weeks, I had to not only make one, perfect one, and make all the sides for like 14, 15 people. Gratefully, I love cooking. I'm from the Midwest and I have huge extended families. Kevin, on the other hand, has like one cousin. I have like 50. So I was used to making a lot of food for a lot of people. I researched, I think her name is Tiny on TikTok. I researched her wet brine. I think I did Chef Cassie. She had a dry brine. I found that on TikTok. I found a recipe for the mayo crusted turkey on the New York Times. That's our favorite, by the way. And I tried, between getting home from my seminar and Gavin getting a biopsy and Thanksgiving, I did 3 different turkey recipes and then all of the leftovers, which is his favorite part. I did turkey trattorini. I can't pronounce that word. I did turkey pot pie, which is actually, those are both time consuming. I forgot how much I don't like making turkey pot pie until I was doing it again. I did turkey meatloaf, you name it. Every week he was like eating like a king, and still no biopsy results. Week after week after week, no results. And the stress of this thing that, there's like this thing growing on his neck, and the possibility of it being cancer is still there, but we were still calling it a big fat boil, praying that this thing on his neck was nothing more than this cyst that had to be removed. So Thanksgiving comes, everyone comes, everything goes off without a hitch. I'm basking in the idea and the realization and the reality of hosting my first Thanksgiving in my brand new home with my husband. And throughout the day, I would look at him and I'd just be like struck with emotion. And the idea that I had been craving my adult life is here. I manifested this. I manifested this beautiful home. I manifested this relationship. But the possibility of it being our only Thanksgiving was in the back of my mind. People would, ask Gavin how he was doing. And he had a marker on his neck because every night he would draw a circle around this thing growing on his neck to see if it grew. And every morning it grew. So by the end of November 2024, it was, his whole side of his neck. People asked him how he was doing, and he's like, "Oh, I'm fine. It doesn't hurt. It's just bothersome." I'd catch like a wave of emotion and would have to force myself not to cry because I didn't want to break down in front of everybody. So everyone leaves. Beautiful day. Loved it. Kids go back to school that Monday. I tear down Thanksgiving and I put up Christmas in our house. And then the next day, it's Tuesday, the day after Thanksgiving, 2024. I'm preparing for our week. I'm grocery shopping, sitting in the parking lot about to get out of the car, and I hear my phone chirp inside my purse on the passenger seat. And we're on like high alert at this point. We're answering calls from unknown numbers. I'm constantly looking to see if Gavin sends a message. Pick up my phone from my purse, and it's a text message from him. And he forwarded me a voicemail. Hey, Gavin, this is Dr. So-and-so. I just got your path report back, and I'm sorry to deliver the news, but it was malignant. We have to get on this. Here's a number to an ENT. It's somebody that I recommend. He's in network. You need to call him, get on his schedule right away for staging, for diagnosis, for removal. It's high priority. I need you to do this. I'm so sorry I don't have better news, but I wanted to give this report to you as soon as possible. He went on for 2.5 minutes, one long run-on sentence. And he actually said the name of the cell, squamous cell carcinoma or something. I still can't pronounce it. I learned my husband had cancer sitting in a grocery store parking lot by myself by voicemail. My husband learned he had cancer sitting in a cubicle by himself by voicemail. He had put his phone on Do Not Disturb because he was in a meeting. He got out of the meeting, sat down at his desk, saw a message from his doctor. Gratefully didn't have it on speakerphone. As soon as he got that message, he forwarded it to me and drove home. So I listened to it, and I'm like, what did that guy just say? Cancer. It's malignant. He has cancer. Is that what he's saying? I listened to it again, and I text Gavin, where are you? On my way home. Okay, I'll meet you there. I forwarded it to my parents, my brother and my sister, and I remember putting a message attached to the voicemail. He has cancer. My dad immediately calls back and says, you have to get on it. Of course. Yes, I know. We have to get on it. Let me get home first. I don't remember talking to my mom, but I remember walking. I don't even remember walking into the house. The next thing I remember is I'm standing in the kitchen looking at Gavin. I don't remember driving. I don't remember pulling in the garage. I don't remember parking. I remember feeling like I should cry. I had to cry, but I was like in shock. I was numb and unnerved at the same time, scared, and really pissed that we learned he had cancer by voicemail. And we didn't have anyone looking at us explaining, what cell did you just say? What does he have? Does he have skin cancer? What did you just say? No, he didn't have skin cancer. But yet, everyone I sent that voicemail to said, oh, it's skin cancer. It's not skin cancer. It wasn't skin cancer. It was very frustrating. I was really pissed. So I'm standing in the kitchen, praying I park the car without hitting anything. There's like no dents in the front bumper. And my purse is in one hand, my keys are in the other, and I'm just staring at him. He's staring at me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, honey. And he's like, yeah, me too. We hugged, but then he got really uncomfortable with me just sort of staring at him. So he walked into one of the kids' rooms, and I heard him talking, and I figured he was leaving a message for that ENT. I went and sat down on the couch, and I stayed there for a little while. But that was like everything was blank. I couldn't form a thought. I couldn't figure out what to do. I felt totally helpless. And then I started getting bombarded with text messages from Gavin with books that he had ordered, diets he found, unconventional ways to cure cancer naturally. And he's like, I'm going hard on this method. And it was this controversial juicing method. He only wanted to eat fruits and vegetables. He wanted to follow these recipes. So that was something I could do. I will go out and I will buy all of these vegetables and fruits on this list. I got jars that I could juice. He wanted carrot, apple, ginger, kale juices every morning, every afternoon, every night. He needed this diet that he wanted to follow. I had 8 of them a day. So I went out and I bought these jars, and he got a juicer and we got a high-speed blender, and that was something we could do. It was a coping mechanism of just us preparing, us taking action in something, because we felt totally helpless otherwise. So the next day, I juiced all the stuff he wanted me to juice. And I even made this soup that was just disgusting. It was nasty. Pureed zucchini and leeks. I think there was some tomato and potato in there. No seasoning. He hated it. I ate it, but I doused it with like lemon pepper and hot sauce, and he didn't want any of that. And I had it in like 64-ounce jars. I mean, it was ridiculous. But the next day, I felt like I had to do something. I had to put my anger somewhere. So I'm not saying this is the best solution. You know, this is what I did. I looked up my husband's primary care physician, who he had been working with for a decade. And I called and I left a message, and I was like, hey, I'm Carrie. I'm Gavin's wife. You've been working with him for a decade. And I just want to call and let you know that after having a relationship with somebody for 10 years, you would think you would want to talk to him in person. And I'm really disappointed that you left that message for him. I can't even understand the cell that you're saying he has. We can't understand you because you left a 2.5 long message as with one breath. You gave us one phone number to call. We left a message, and now we're pretty much out here by ourselves, not knowing what to do. And I needed you to know I'm disappointed in you. So the next day, I did that without Gavin knowing. The next day, Gavin gets a message from his primary saying, I gave you everything I have. That's all I got. Tell your wife, please. And Gavin responded, I'll let her know, but it probably won't do any good. And it really didn't. I was pissed. Like, we got life-changing news without any real understanding of how dangerous situation he was in. Meanwhile, the thing on his neck was like covering his whole side of his neck. It was growing exponentially. He left a message with an ENT, wasn't on a calendar. And we were basically like out here waiting for somebody, a total stranger, to call us back. It didn't really sit well with anybody. So the next day, I'm sitting in, I lead a writer support meeting through our church, CCV, and I'm sitting in that meeting, and Gavin sends me a message, and he says, hey, I want to be the captain of my own ship here. I'm going to walk into an ER and ask somebody to give me a CT scan so we can look at what's happening. And he's like, I don't care if I have to pay cash. I just need answers. And I was so proud of him. He was advocating for himself. So here's my tip for advocates. Every episode, I want to share a caregiving tip, an advocacy tip, a marriage tip, because when you look at caregiving and patient relationships, particularly when you're spoused, you're married, it gets really tricky because there's all these different layers to it. Advocating for answers is your right, whether you're a patient or you're the caregiver. So we went into the closest ER. Gavin walked in up to the administration desk and said, I have a little bit of cancer and I would like somebody to take a picture of it. When he said he had a little bit of cancer, my skin crawled. I wanted to slap him upside the head because we don't know if it's a little bit of cancer, and I need you to take this a little bit more seriously. We were on very different pages. He wanted to downplay it, and I wanted to find the best person to get the best answer, right? Little bit of cancer. Okay. So he gets admitted, some vitals worked up, everything. And we actually have to go back and forth with the hospital administration because it's not an emergency. We weren't referred. We weren't nobody told us to walk in, but we wanted a CT scan. And we actually had to agree to pay cash for them to take it seriously. They didn't want to give him one otherwise. So we had to sign all this paperwork, get that out of the way. Okay, now we can get him in the back. Meanwhile, his kids were getting out of school. We didn't want to scare them or make anything bigger at this point because we literally just learned about it a couple of days ago. And we didn't want to put anyone on high alert until we knew what we were dealing with. So I go and get one kid from one school, the other kid from another school, and I make it an adventure. They get afternoon at grandma's. Picked up some McDonald's, dropped them off, keep my mom posted on what's happening, run back to the hospital. Gavin gets taken back for a CT scan, and we wait. My mom texts me, hey, what's going on? Still waiting for the results. Doctor walks in, gratefully, the attending physician, sits down and reads the report to Gavin without looking at him and says, it is metastasized. It is suspicious of head and neck cancer. It is along your lymph nodes and on your tonsil. And so Gavin's first response, as he's like searching for his glasses, trying to read this report sitting in front of him, is, so I have throat cancer? And she shakes her head no. And she hands me the piece of paper and I read it again. Honey, it says you have head and neck cancer and it's on your lymph nodes and on your tonsil. Meanwhile, the doctor sitting across from us has her eyes closed. There's no, I'm so sorry. There's no compassion. And I guess I was looking for that. I was looking for somebody, anybody, to say, I'm sorry to tell you, you have cancer. But that isn't what happened. So I waited for her to open her eyes. And when she finally did, I said, what do we do now? And she's like, you need an appointment with an ENT. Well, we left a message. What else do you got? And before we left that room, my husband advocated for himself again. And he was like, I want to see somebody in this hospital network next week. I want to see a head and neck surgeon next week. I was really proud of him. He was really being the captain of his own ship here. So she gave us a phone number to call, and that was it. So I lean over, I kiss Gavin. I'm so sorry, honey. Are you okay? And he's like, yeah, well, that's not the news I wanted, obviously, but at least we have an answer. And by this point, it was December 1st. So he woke up with a lump the size of a golf ball on his neck, October 28th. December 1st, we found out it was head and neck cancer because he advocated for himself, really. We went to the emergency room and we demanded a CT scan and didn't leave until they agreed to give him one. So I go get the kids. While I'm standing there, I walk up to my parents' house, actually. My mom's one of these human beings that hugs and doesn't let go of a hug until she's ready. She has to let go first, or maybe last. The hug doesn't end until my mom lets go. So I prepare myself for a big hug, and I walk up to her door. She opens it, open arms, pulls me in, and holds me. for like, seriously, a long time. I dropped my arms hoping my mom would let go. She doesn't let go. So I put my arms back up. When she's finally ready, she lets go. And she's like, I'm so sorry, honey. And I'm pulsing my fingernails into the palm of my hand so I don't cry because the kids are in there. I don't want them to know anything's wrong. So I share the news, what we learned. Okay, kids, pack up, go get your socks and shoes on. We got to go. And as I'm standing there, Gavin texts me and he's like, we have to go hard after this with like juicing and this soup. And I'm scared. This wasn't what I wanted. I'm like, okay, got it. Absolutely. So if you're a caregiver married to your patient and you're just starting this experience, here's a tip for you, both as a caregiver and as a spouse. Whatever they need you to do in terms of emotional support, lean into it. He needed me to be his like diet buddy in the beginning. He couldn't do the juicing and the soup thing by himself. So even though I didn't offer, it was assumed by him that I was going to do this with him. And so I agreed. Of course, absolutely. Whatever you need. I'll only drink these nasty kale, cabbage, leek drinks and eat this soup. But I put my line on it. I was like, I'm adding some sauce to mine though, because I can't do it without. It was really gross. And I said, okay. And then for the kids, we'll just do sandwiches and carrots and apple slices. Like, I won't make them things that you'll want to eat. So we go home. He doesn't want to tell the kids that night. He doesn't want to tell anybody else. He just wants life to be as normal as possible, knowing he has cancer. And we were going to deal with next steps another day. I'm going to end here for episode 2 of I Saved You, Now Do the Dishes. Thank you so much for listening. Next episode, I'll share how we got into the hospital network, how we found our team, and how we finally told the kids. If you are a caregiver, I love you. I'm thinking of you. Know that it is okay to ask somebody else to do the dishes. Until next time, thanks so much for listening. And if you could please like and subscribe so that you know when I launch the next episode, I'd be very grateful. Until next time.